Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today for some delightful fun. We get to take a look at Ikoria spoilers, finally, after so long. So let's just dive straight in, shall we? The first card we're going to look at is Illuna, Apex of Wishes. So for 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 green, along with 2 other mana, you get a 6/6 legendary creature that is a beast elemental dinosaur. That's one of the things you're going to notice about this set is this is like crazy creature type, insano tribal set. There's a bunch of really nutty stuff going on here. Now, the first ability on this card, well, we're going to start talking about mutate right out of the gates. So it mutates for 3 along with a hybrid mana. If you're not familiar with that weird little red and green symbol, that is the hybrid mana symbol, and it can be paid with either style of cost. You can either pay the red or the green, and it counts. So this is 3, a red or a green, and 2 blue, and it mutates. So mutate's reminder text says, if you cast this spell for its mutate cost, put it over or under target non-human creature you own. They mutate into the creature on top, plus all abilities from under it. So let's go through the rest of the abilities on the card, and then we'll come back to this mutate and make sure everybody understands how it works. So this is a 6/6 flying trampler. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand. That's actually really sweet. In all honesty, that is a really nice trigger ability. The fact that you can just put something into the battlefield for free, you're not even casting it. It's not cast it without paying its mana cost. It's literally just put it onto the battlefield. It can't even be countered. Or you can choose to have the permanent put in your hand if putting it on the battlefield would not be something that would help you in the case of like having an X casting cost creature that comes in with X +1/+1 counters and is otherwise a 0/0. If you were to put that straight into play, that would be a bad deal. So having the option is nice. Now, how does this mutate work? It's a weird setup. You'll notice that the text box actually has this interesting dividing line across it where the mutate part of the card looks a little bit darker and the rest of the ability is lightened. And that is to kind of highlight what's going on with mutate. So when you mutate this, you're either going to place Illuna on top of another creature or underneath another creature. If you place Illuna underneath the other creature, then the creature will gain the flying, trample, and whenever this creature mutates ability in addition to whatever else it was. So if you go ahead and slap this onto, let's say, a Drakuseth, for example, then you'd have that 7/7 flying dragon that does 4 damage to one target, 2 damage to other targets, and also gains trample and whenever the creature mutates ability off of Illuna. Whereas if you were to do it in the other way, where you put Illuna on top of the Drakuseth, then Illuna would still be a 6/6 flying trampler, but would also gain the abilities that Drakuseth has, namely flying, which, I mean, they already have, so whatever, but also the fire-breathing ability to slam multiple targets for damage. So mutate is a very interesting concept. You use it as an alternate casting cost, and if the creature that you're going to try and put a mutate creature on top of leaves the battlefield before the mutate creature can make it into play, the mutate creature still comes out as normal. But if the mutation's already on the creature, then all the cards go to the graveyard. So if you basically, like, if I go to play this mutate card, and you play a creature destruction spell destroying the creature that I'm going to mutate this onto before Illuna comes out, then Illuna just comes out normally, not mutating on any creature. But if you were to wait until after I had mutated and used Illuna's ability, and then go ahead and play the creature destruction spell, you will actually get to send both to the graveyard for maximum advantage. Now, the apex creatures, this is a cycle. There's 5 of them, and they represent the 5 tribal zones of the world of Ikoria. The world is divvied up into these sort of layers. I mean, it makes sense, lair behemoths, right? So into these kind of layer domains of these apex creatures. And we will see some of the apex ones in this video. I have at least one for the next video. I already have I have to divide these cards up, guys. We know I talk a lot, so these videos, they're gonna be long because I want to enjoy myself. We're gonna have a good time here. So the artwork shows a Luna here as this crazy sort of winged beast. I don't see the dinosaur part of it so much. If you want to count all the horns coming up out of it, this feels like a more humanoid sphinx. You can see that Aluma has her, I'm assuming it's a her. It could be either, whatever. Either way, has a claw extended forwards with this pinpoint of light in their hand. Now, Luna, from the story of what magic is a granter of wishes. But not like you can go to a genie and be like, oh, I want this wish granted. Basically, a Luna can make your dreams into reality, but it does it in an inscrutable sort of way where there's no way to petition a Luna, please make this a reality. Like, bring back my wife or give me a goat or whatever. A Luna just sometimes does it and sometimes doesn't. The granter of wishes. It's an interesting concept as just this elemental beast that roams the plains, and when you find it, it may make your wishes come true, or it may ignore you, or maybe it might even eat you. Because I mean, why not? A nice little snack. So this set is weird. Talking about weird, let's move into the next one here. We're talking about Carrucha, the Macro Sage. What a weird name, Carrucha the Macro Sage. So this is, again, hybrid mana, either green or blue. I like this. I do like that concept, in all honesty. This is something, this one right here I could see putting in my green deck. So, 2 hybrid green, blue, and 3 for a 5/4 legendary dinosaur hippo. It's got Companion, which is the other crazy ability from this set. And it says, Companion, your starting deck contains only 3 cards with converted mana cost 3 or greater and land cards. So this is a really interesting and different concept that Wizards has come up with. The way Companion works is, if your deck, you can play it just like a normal Magic card. You can ignore the Companion part, put it into your deck, and just play it as normal. But if your deck meets the Companion criteria, then you actually get to play with this card exiled off to the side. And you can cast it. Do you know how Commander works, where you have a special command zone? Well, this works similarly in that this card kind of exists, but it exists over in your sideboard. Or if you're not playing with sideboards, then just off to the side. And if your deck, the construction of your deck, the way you've built your deck meets particular requirements, you're allowed to have this Companion off to the side instead of in your deck. And it's not like you would build your normal 60 card deck and have this set off to the side. But to be able to do that, you have to make sure that the deck that you've built has cards that only have converted mana cost 3 or greater in land cards. Now, this is a pretty wild ability to bring into Magic the Gathering, if I'm being real. Because, I mean, first of all, there's the ability to cheat or have an illegal deck just completely unintentionally, where you don't realize, oops, I put a couple of 2 costs in here, or not quite understanding. This is one where it's like, you have to trust me that I'm not cheating. Yes, if a 2 or 1 casting cost spell shows up, then we've got a problem, and you go, you're a cheater. But it's interesting that this is a trust game where we're going to sit down and you're just going to have to take my word for it that my deck has been built to these specifications. I think it's interesting to see them play with this space, and I also think that it's kind of a trick for Commander players. But I'll probably go in detail more with that in a video at some point. We'll talk about that somewhere else, maybe a live stream. Anyways, let's continue with the rest of Carrucha's ability here. So when Carrucha the Macro Sage enters the battlefield, draw a card for each other permanent you control with converted mana cost 3 or greater. And you're getting a 5/4 body on top of that. This is the kind of card I would include in my green deck. The artwork is absolutely hilarious. The front of it is a hippo, but the hippo has these big crazy fangs. And then you've got what is the type of dinosaur that has these running down along its back? Is it like a Stegosaurus? Is that what they're called? I don't know the exact type of dinosaur. If you know exactly what kind of dinosaur this is mimicking with its long tail with the triangular spiked plates on its back, then let me know in the comments. Honestly, I really dig this card. It doesn't feel like overpowered, but it's interesting, and it definitely makes me curious to see what other companion cards will exist, because there's supposed to be a number of these. And it's interesting to start your deck with particular restrictions to gain perhaps an additional bonus, right? Moving on, let us talk about a brand new planeswalker we have never seen before. And that is Lucca Copper Coat Outcast. I mentioned in a video a few days ago that this would be one of the names of the planeswalkers from the information that people had uncovered, and it looks like that turned out to be correct. So 2 red and 3 get you a 5 loyalty planeswalker. His +1 ability is exile the top 3 cards of your library. Creature cards exiled this way gain. You may cast this card from exile as long as you control a Lucca planeswalker. Huh, weird. I've got to admit, that feels like a green ability, doesn't it? I mean, exiling creatures, they have a Vivian that does that in War of the Spark, although you don't actually have to control Vivian and you do have to control a Lucca. So in one way, it is like kind of a weaker ability than Vivian's ability to give you creatures to cast. But yeah, I mean, this feels green. -2, exile target creature you control, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card with higher converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. That feels red and green, I'll be real. I mean, the fact that it's like specifically keyed to creatures does have a green feel to it, but the whole flipping over cards from the top of your deck until you hit a particular type of permanent, that used to be a blue ability, it's more of a red ability. So, I mean, that feels green-red. His first ability feels green. His second ability feels green-red. And his final ultimate ability is -7. Each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. All right. I mean, again, that's a green-red feel. He feels very much green-red. And in the artwork, you can see that he has, I guess, the copper coats. I'm not sure about this. I think it's like an organization of mankind. So you can see him here in his crazy outfit with like a little mini harpoon strapped to his arm. I kind of dig that. That's a different take on weaponry instead of having like a sword slung at his hip or whatever. And he's got this giant saber tooth that looks absolutely fantastic. And he is most likely, now I don't know, we don't have any story information about Lucca yet, but it's fairly safe to say that he is a bonder. And the bonders are people on Ikoria who actually ended up, surprisingly enough with the name, bonding with animals on Ikoria, right? And in some cases, these bonds are forged instantaneously. As soon as they see the beast, boom, they're just linked up on like a spiritual level. And sometimes it happens after crazy different sort of things happening. I think my favorite story I've seen so far in that regard was the one chick who had her arm ripped off fighting a beast that she was trying to slay, and they ended up bonding. That's a cool concept. Now, bonders are outcasts from society because on this world, Ikoria, mankind is struggling to survive. It's similar to the Throne of Eldraine scenario where it's man versus wild, but the threat on Eldraine was more of they have magical powers and they're gonna, like, the elves are gonna take back over the lands. Whereas this is, mankind is so insignificant in the face of these beasts that there's no real way for them to survive, which it leads to some really cool innovations in terms of there's a society of people who live in a floating air balloon airship kind of congregation city, and there are other people who live below and behind a lava flow that they can control, so they have like armoring for their civilization of lava. There's a lot of cool stuff like that, but because mankind is so set against the monsters of the world, anybody who's like a bonder is basically forced to give up their bond or to be exiled. You are not accepted here in society. So Lucca clearly here is a bonder, and I feel like it's safe to say this on multiple levels because he's an outcast. Bonders are also known to like change their appearance somewhat to mimic the animals that they're with. And if you look at the fur of the animal and you kind of look at Lucca's hair, you can see there's a striping effect going on, kind of a la Ral Zarek, that does tie them together. I like this artwork a lot. I'm very interested to learn more about this character. The novel comes out on the 7th, and I will be getting that, so we'll get into the story too. Let's move on to the next card, my friends. Luminous Luminous Broodmoth. 2 white and 2 for a 3/4 flyer. Oh, this guy's mythic. All right. He is a flying insect. Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter. Whoa. Wow. Honestly, like some of the stuff I'm seeing for the absolute first time, I just gathered up all the cards and I'm like, we're going to do a spoiler video first impression setup. This is amazing. 4 mana for a 3/4 flyer that will let you resurrect each of your creatures once and add flying to it. That's really strong. And the artwork is, I like this a lot, actually. You've got this gigantic moth, but he's definitely got like a butterfly feel to him. You know, just the thing is, some moths, essentially to me, are butterflies in terms of beauty. There are like some ugly, gross moths. But this one's got that interesting yellow pattern with the little red circles and all the little lines. Just all these little details that go into it to give it like its wings like a tribal feel. And it kind of actually looks like a big face towards the bottom of it, you know, with the blue lines that are running down it, kind of forming the nose with an eye on either side. That's interesting. That sort of camouflage that you use to make predators think you're looking at them so you can escape when you're facing in a different direction. And you can see all the tiny little moths flying up with it. Like this moth somehow has the power to resurrect things. I honestly don't understand how it does, really. Like, does it eat the creatures that's lives have ended and then rebirth them as moths or something? And that's what, like, these little moths that are flying behind it, do they house the souls of the fallen? It's an interesting idea. I would definitely like to know more about this card. Let's move on to an elemental otter. Oh my god, this is so cool. All right, 2 blue and 2 blue and red hybrid mana and 1. So it costs 3 in total to cast this. I was wondering what the elemental otter would be. This is my first time seeing it. Lutri the Spell Chaser. Oh, it's another companion. Okay. So this is a 3/2 elemental otter. It's got companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name. Okay. Guys, this card got banned preemptively in Commander. This card is already banned before releasing Commander. And I wondered, I saw there was an announcement saying they were banning a card with companion in advance, but I didn't catch the name of it. And it's obviously this one, because I mean, Commander is Singleton, and this is clearly built for Singleton. So it will be an auto include for anybody playing any kind of red or blue Commander deck. Interesting to see that this one, I mean, yeah, this is basically like be playing a Commander deck. I wonder if Wizards knew that when they put this out, that the Commander Council would immediately be like, veto, it's gotta go. Anyways, 3/2 flash. When Lutri the Spell Chaser enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Wow, are you kidding me? Really? It sits outside of the game, always ready to go. Wow, dude, this is really strong. This feels like really crazily strong. No wonder it got banned in Commander. Wizards is pushing the power level here. Good lord. I mean, after Theros, I'm okay with that. But wow, this is a power push right here. And the artwork shows, oh my god, look at this thing. This is amazing. You've got the otter. He's rearing up out of the water. And this otter would be pretty big, man. Think about the size of a regular otter. And then think about the fact that a human's like a 1/1. And this thing's a 3/2. So this otter's going to be like the size of a bear, probably. That's amazing. And so it shows him reared up, and he's got these like blue little spines running down his back that represent the blue side of his aspect. And he's sitting there like harnessing lightning, like he's on Dragon Ball Z or something, going, let me just yell for 10 minutes, bro. It's amazing. I love this card. Everything about this is fantastic. And again, I can see why it got insta-banned. There's no way you can let this nonsense run around. Let us move on to the next card, my friends. It is Mosscoat Goriak. 1 green and 2 for a 2/4 vigilance beast. Goriaks are as stubborn and as hardy as I'd expect of a large herbivore in a wetland habitat, but I never expected them to have such beautiful voices. And that's a quote from Vivian Reed. And I guess maybe it's an attempt at humor? It's not landing for me. I mean, the artwork is pretty serviceable. It's funny because this looks like a pretty big beast overall, but compared to the stuff that exists in Ikoria, this is a small fry. 3 mana for a 2/4. That's weird. You know what I mean? Normally for 3 mana, you'd expect like a 3/2 or something. This is definitely more defensive. I guess that ties into the herbivore concept. It has metal armor on its head. Is that because it's like, is this a domesticated beast? Like, why would it have armoring like that if it wasn't? I don't know. In the background, you can see gigantic toadstool mushrooms, and you see these shards that are growing up. These crystals have some kind of magical nature that activates around monsters. We saw it in the Ikoria trailer, and they talk about it in the Planeswalker Guide to Ikoria as well. That's why we'll see it incorporated into armor and other things. I don't have a lot to say about this card. This is definitely just draft filler. Let's move on. Pacifism returns. 1 white and 1 for an enchant creature that says enchanted creature can't attack or block. The flavor text says, if only they'd all act this docile, I could do something relaxing for a living. I've always wanted to bake biscuits. And that's from Ethic Coppercoat Mage. All right, that's cute. I do like the idea of the flavor text. Like, there's a certain human element to that where it's like, dude, man, I wish that I didn't have to deal with rampaging monsters and beasts all the time and use my magic to try and keep us all from getting wiped out. It would be really cool to just bake some biscuits, bro. I just want to have some biscuits. And the artwork shows what looks like a dinosaur to me. It actually has kind of a, if you guys remember the Invasion days, it has kind of a Kevu vibe to it, really. And you can see it's just chilling there. It's got like a halo of light, like golden light leaves or flowers, something like that, rotating around its head. And its eyes kind of have this glossy effect. It's like they got him high. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of math. It's like, all right, man, let's just get him blitzed out of his mind, and hopefully he won't mess with us. And you can see he's laying there chilling with his tongue all lolling out to the side, reaching up his claw towards this quite colorful and nice-looking butterfly. Or I guess theoretically it could be a moth, but I'm going to say butterfly that is flying up. It's probably just going to land right there on his claw. He's like, oh, so pretty. I like it. That's a fun take on the pacifism concept. I give this one a big win. Obviously, in terms of power level, this is something that's really only going to show up in drafts in most situations. Moving on, we got what a Polliwog? Get out. This is cool. 1 blue and 1 for a 1/3 frog. I love the word Polliwog. That's fantastic. Each creature spell you cast costs 1 less to cast if it has mutate. Whenever you cast a creature spell, if it has mutate, draw a card, then discard a card. And the flavor text says, it always knew it was destined to be more than a frog. This is a fun concept. I like this a lot, right? Like the idea of this, okay, I know that I'm not going to be a frog. It has like an affinity for creatures that mutate. It helps you make the mutations happen more easily. And also there's knowledge that's gained through the mutation concept. And I like the fact that it's illustrated with this sort of mostly underwater view where its body is chilling underwater, and it's like got that weird kind of tadpole tail, but its head is sticking on up like he's, yo bro, I'm ready to mutate. Let's do this. Honestly, seems like a reasonable card. Depending on what exists for mutate, this could be playable in more than draft. I mean, I have no idea how playable, but it doesn't scream garbage. It screams like kind of like a lord concept, not a +1/+1 lord, but like a different kind of lord where it's like, I'm going to give you a boost for all your mutate stuff that's going on. I don't know. Or a mutate enabler, however you want to look at it. Either way, I dig it. I think it's cool. We're going to move on now to another Apex. This is Snapdax, Apex of the Hunt. 1 black, 1 white, 1 red, and 1 for a 3/5 legendary dinosaur cat nightmare. That's a crazy concept right there. It's got mutate for 2, a black and a red, and a white. No, 2 white. So 2 white, a hybrid black and a red, and 2 is the mutate cost. It's got double strike. Wow. A 3/5 double striker for 4 mana. Whenever this creature mutates, it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, and you gain 4 life. Wow. Dude, this feels like hyper aggressive. This card feels really, really strong. Wow, like you can just slap these abilities onto any size body, and even on the body you get, it's only 4 mana. No wonder the mutate cost is 6. That's intense. Good God. And the artwork is pretty sweet too, man. You got this like black, cloudy skied background, and you've got this dinosaur cat nightmare that is leaping down in this, I'm gonna rip you apart fashion. Dude, that's intense. Snapdax, if I'm not mistaken, is actually he's the apex of the remember how I said they're like different tribal groups? This tribal group, I believe he's the tribal group leader of nightmares. There's a cat one as well, but I don't think he's the leader of the cats. I may be getting them twisted up because the information is new. You know what I mean? Like, this is not something that we've had around for a while, and so it's still taking a bit to absorb the lore and get adjusted to it. The next card that we have here, Tanith Rex, is something that I think is pretty sweet for an uncommon, in all honesty. I could see myself using this. 2 green and 7 for an 11/11 dinosaur beast with trample. It's got cycling for a green and a colorless. And when you cycle it, you get to put a trample counter on target creature you control. So in a way, it kind of functions as an instant uncounterable. Well, I mean, you can technically counter like triggered or activated abilities, but there's like 1 or 2 cards at any given point that can do that in standard at most. So nobody's really running that stuff. So it's kind of like an uncounterable way to give a creature trample at instant speed if you need to, or if you just want to discard it because he's got an insanely high mana cost, right? So you have him early, you pitch him with cycling and draw a card. Cycling's great, right? You just pay a green and colors, discard him, boom, you're up a card. Well, not up a card, really. He's gone, you've got another card. Card exchange, but either way, you get to add trample onto one of your creatures as a bonus if you want to. Not too shabby. And you look at him, he's pretty straightforward. He's this big kind of towering dinosaur beast, and he's got that vibe to it. I don't know, man. He's got like almost like a Bowser from Mario vibe to it, but more like a hellish Minotaur Bowser, if that makes sense. When you look at it, you can see how big he is, though. Like the scale of him, right? Look at the trees and everything. All the tree lines and everything. The trees come to his knees, boy. That thing is massive, right? Like think Croson Cloud Scraper levels, almost. Not too shabby. Magic creatures have come a long way since back in the day. You get beef, boy. Next creature we have is Amore The Collector. And this is 2 hybrid green and black and 2 for a 4/5 legendary ooze. And, it's another companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck shares a card type. What? Weird. Very weird. Every non-land card in your deck has to share a card type. That's a very interesting restriction to place. And as it enters the battlefield, choose a card type. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. Wow, okay, so you limit your whole deck to 1 type of card, but if you do so, you get a pretty significant bonus in that all of your spells cost 1 less. That's a nice discount. And the artwork is interesting. Look at that. It's like, it's a pile of ooze, but it collects things. So it's like, I love crystals. And he's just building little piles of crystals, just going out collecting them up. But he's like, but I only love one thing. I love crystals and crystals alone. It's just like an obsessive compulsion. I like that. It's like an ooze with an obsessive compulsion. That's a funky idea. All right. And for some reason, the way the colors work on this card, I love it. Looking at it, the whole thing is fantastic. The green-black border, the ooze, the crystals, there's just something that makes this card really visually striking, and I enjoy it a lot. Next up, we've got another Apex. This is Vadrock Apex of Thunder, and it is 1 white, 1 red, and 1 blue for a 3/3. It has mutate for 2 red, a hybrid white, blue, and 1. It has flying, first strike, and whenever this creature mutates, you may cast target non-creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. So just on the surface of it, you're paying 3 mana for a 3/3 flyer with first strike that will let you cast a non-creature card that costs 3 or less from your graveyard for free. That's a lot of value, honestly. And being able to slap it on, like mutate it. Oh, I mean, you don't, that's right. You don't get the ability unless it mutates. My bad. I was reading it as if you just pay that and you automatically get it. and that's not the case, right? You have to actually be mutating it, so you have to be paying 4 mana. But either way, this is just a really, really solid card, and the artwork is so funky. It's just this elemental dinosaur cat that's made up of just like primal mana. It's just crazy. All this, like that. It's like, it almost looks like the hair that's running along the mane of the cat head, and that's also running down along the back. It looks like it's made out of pure mana, and like electricity is kind of coming off of Valdrok's wings in waves. It's absolutely crazy. And I believe the mythology behind this one here is that when Valdrok eats something, nobody remembers it exists. So basically he eats the memory of its existence. It's crazy. It's like unmaking what Valdrok eats. That's pretty intense. I believe that's this one. I might be getting the Apexes confused, but either way, this feels like a really solid card. Moving on, we've got Vivien Monsters Advocate. 2 green and 3 for a 3 loyalty version of Vivien. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Oh, God. God, this is going to make, like, arena games so slow with some people. Oh. All right, whatever. Let's not get focused on that. You may cast creature cards from the top of your library. I'm already very, very much into this card. Oh my God. What is it? Okay, +1. Create a 3/3 green beast creature token. Put your choice of a vigilance counter, reach counter, or trample counter on it. Dude, that's sick. You can make a 3/3 beast for free every turn that either has vigilance, reach, or trample. That's great. -2. When you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser converted mana cost, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This card is awesome! Are you kidding me? Dude, I'm all about this. I am going to play multiple copies of this card. This is fantastic. And the artwork's nice too. Vivien looks great here. Honestly, I didn't really like the way she looked in the Ikoria trailer. She looks very, very nice in this artwork. This is fantastic. She's just kind of running forwards with this beast here. I guess that's supposed to be a 3/3 beast she's created. I don't know, man. The lighting of this, just this kind of action-y pose, like, let's go, my friend, as she charges off on whatever adventure. I'm 100% down for this, man. The little details, I like that leather kind of saddlebag she has strapped to the side of her leg. I have no idea what you would call that. But either way, this card is awesome. I am like super, super, super hyped about getting to play with this card. It's just, it feels so bonkers, man. That's fantastic. Let's move on before I keep yammering about that. Void Beckoner is next. 2 black and 6 for an 8/8 with Death Touch. It's a nightmare horror. Cycles for a black and 2. When you cycle Void Beckoner, put a Death Touch counter on target creature you control. All right, so it's very similar to that big old 11/11 trampler we talked about already. I guess this is probably a cycle across the colors where you'll have a creature with an ability, cycle it to give a creature the ability, and they're like big expensive creatures, so you can cycle them early game. That's a good combination of abilities in terms of like, we're going to give you the ability cheaply to add something to a creature, or over the long term, you can have a giant version of it if you have the mana to pay for this. I do like that. I find that to be nice, a nice bit of utility. Obviously, a card like this isn't going to be strong enough to like rip it up in standard, I don't think. But in a draft, sure, totally serviceable. Death Touch is a really solid removal ability, so that is not too shabby at all. The artwork shows this crazy looking nightmare horror. This is one of the ones where I wish that I had a bigger, more high resolution version of the artwork so that I could really zoom in and look at it. It just kind of like looks all crouched over and messed up with this lightning arcing out in front of it, and it's just half shrouded in darkness. It looks like it might have lost an... Oh no, that's its head. Okay. I see its head with its weird little mandibles. It's a weird insect kind of... It is definitely a nightmarish horror. I'll give them that. They did a good job on that. All right, so let's move on to the final card we have to talk about today, and that is Zagoth Mamba. 1 black for a 1/1 nightmare snake. Whenever this creature mutates, target creature an opponent controls gets -2/-2 until end of turn. And the flavor text says, it's just a snake. A many-eyed snake with venom that turns your blood to smoke. but still just a snake. And that's Kimmin, Bonder Prodigy. That's amazing. I mean, that shows you the level of insanity in this world, where it's like, it's just a snake. Yeah, sure, it's got a ton of eyes, and if it bites you, it turns your blood into smoke, but still just a snake, man. It's not the worst thing we're dealing with out here. And so you can see this is a nightmare snake. It is swirled all around this tree. Again, we can see crystals that are like sticking out of this. This has to be in a swamp area. These crystals look kind of like purple-ish aligned, and that seems to be the way that Wizards is representing black in artwork. So, you know, with the green cards, you'll see green crystals in the background. With the blue, you'll see blue crystals in the background. And with the black, you'll see like a purple, pinkish kind of color used. It's an interesting choice. I guess maybe it just stands out better than if they were trying to use black. But either way, I mean, this is not too shabby. This is a little base for you to put your other big fat mutators on. Or not on, I should say. This is a creature where you would just want to stick it under your other creatures in most cases. You're not really going to want to be casting this and putting other guys under it, unless there's like a Meek Stone or something crazy out somehow that says, you need your creatures to be small. But, you know, whatever. Seems like a serviceable sort of enabler for mutate if you want to get a little bit more bonus out of whatever mutations you're doing. Not too shabby, and I do enjoy the artwork on it. I like the colorfulness of it, and it's pretty straightforward. Here's a Mamba coming out of the trees. It's going to bite you, and it's going to turn your blood into smoke. All right? So that's all the spoilers. Thanks for coming by, my friends. Big shout out to my patrons and channel members for supporting what I do here. We're going to continue with the spoil lore videos for a whole bunch more cards. I already will, by the time this video is uploaded and ready to go, I will already have been working on the next installment. So, if you want more of this goodness, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out. And I will see you all soon for some more spoiler deliciousness.